Welcome back to the apocalypse. I'm Silver, still here.
I'm Mage.
He's still here too.
And I'm Songbird. I'm you.
I don't know why you sounded like Froppy for a second.
That was Bird's Froppy impersonation.
Yeah.
Just her existence.
Bird, why don't you tell the people where you're from?
I'm from Hellhole, California.
Idaho.
I know Chaotic and Silver from being Chaotic's friend. And through that, being Super Mage's friend. We've all played D&D together, and we've done Monsters, Myths, and Mayhems all together. And through the Mythic Gates. And you always hear me in other various podcasts, so.
You also run a podcast with Chaotic.
Well, that's the various other podcasts.
Book Valkyries.
Book Valkyries.
Today we are maybe a little emotional, as the topic today is emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Yeah.
Quoting a creator called Stephen He.
Check him out.
Grab your tissues.
I don't think it'll be that bad.
Well, maybe. Last week it would have been.
Yeah.
Somebody just plays the 9/11 clip.
Oh man, thank God we're going to put this out in like October.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That.
For those of you not in the know, we're recording this on 9/2. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
if we'd record it next week, it would have been the fight to see who can go first and pick 9/11. And then if you don't rate it super high, you look like an asshole.
Oh.
Oh, that's the random off the cuff thing.
Happens every time.
You know, I think that could have been one of my topics, that movie, Remember Me, but I totally blanked that movie out of my fucking memory.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's horrible. Don't watch it.
Cool. Appreciate the feedback for it.
You know what you should watch instead?
What should I watch instead? You say One Piece because I'm not doing it.
Armageddon.
Armageddon?
Lamageddon.
Oh, I saw Armageddon when I was like 5.
No one else wants to watch Lamageddon.
What is Lamageddon?
Oh my god.
I want to look this up. This is going to be stupid.
Wasn't it University of Ohio kids?
Yeah, Ohio State University
made a film movie
kids.
About these zombie llamas with laser beam eyes that kill them all.
It wasn't a zombie. It was an alien llama.
I said alien.
You said zombie.
Alien. A killer llama from outer space crash lands on Earth and brings death and destruction to everyone in its path.
Mm-hmm. Can you guess who suggested that movie?
Silver?
Yep. Me and Chaotic had him watch like a normal movie, like a horror movie, I think. And then he's like, this is my contribution to the night. And then we freaking laughed before we watched the sequel, Apocalypse.
Lompocalypse?
No, Alpacalypse.
Alpacalypse?
Yes.
That's funny. This is why I don't trust like reviews and everything. So the IMDb on this is a 3.9 out of 10. Seems about right. But like it's a bad movie, right?
Right.
The Rotten Tomatoes is 81%.
No.
I'm looking at it right now.
This is why you can't trust movie reviews, because they do shit like that, and it's
that's the audience score. They give it an 81%.
It's probably all the people that made the movie and keep making other freaking accounts to review it.
We just keep promoting it.
Yes. Might all also be Silver.
These are all like, they keep commenting how funny the movie is. This is a horror sci-fi movie.
It is not funny.
You just gotta think of it around the scary movie times.
Sure.
We watched it in October. It was not horror scary. Lying to me.
All right, so as Silver mentioned, we're doing emotional damage tonight. So we're going to be rating. We actually kind of came up with a little bit of an idea for this. So since there's so many different mediums we typically choose from, tonight specifically, we're going to be picking one from a movie, one from an anime/animation, and one from TV. So like a TV show. I guess we didn't specify like TV, just a series, right? Something that runs on like, it can run on Netflix or something else like that, but a series, not just like a movie.
Generally, I would say like 30 minutes of an hour show, like
something like that.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna pick anything like I'm not going to pick any Dragon Ball Z abridged things where it's 10-minute episodes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're going to rate them. We got 3 different topics that we're going to use to rate these. So the first one is our tear jerker. So scale 1 to 10 like normal. Tear jerker. So if it's a 1, didn't make you sad at all, didn't make you cry at all. If it's a 10, you're sinking in Atlantis with your tears. We're doing storyline impact. So how much does it impact the story? Does it change the story? Does it make the universe different? Is it forgotten about in the next episode? How does that work? And then the lesson time. So 1, is there no lesson at all whatsoever? Or 10, is it a college course essentially? So does it bring a big lesson to the person? And I think does it promote change in the person as well? Or in those that were affected by the situation?
Okay.
Any questions before we start, Bird? Since you're new here.
No.
Here's hoping you go first.
Huh. Are we doing in order TV animation? No, movie TV animation. You know what I meant. I what you said.
I
My brain
think
has
because
dyslexia.
you get to go first, because I spun you, uh,
Okay,
I think you get to pick which one you want to do, and then we will follow suit.
All right. I was hoping this would happen because of one particular thing I have.
Oh, I know what you're going to pick. You're going to pick TV
and
show, aren't you?
No, I'm picking anime.
Okay.
And I am choosing Full Metal Alchemist, the Nina scene.
Well, there goes my list.
And this is why I wanted it.
Yeah, caveat to that too. We talked about this before. You cannot pick the same show twice. So
Nope.
because you picked Full Metal Alchemist, we cannot pick Full Metal Alchemist moving forward.
Yes. So for anyone that doesn't know, Full Metal Alchemist is about 2 brothers, Edward and Alphonse Ulrich. They lose their mom through transmogrification?
Yeah.
You know, the younger brother becomes a suit of armor. Edward is trying to become the best alchemist so he can, bring his mom back from the dead, fix his brother, and fix him.
Yeah, he lost an arm.
Lost an arm. Did he not lose a leg too?
Maybe.
Depends.
I just remember that the arm was
the
a
arm.
thing.
So his mom died, and they tried to bring her back, which cost him an arm and cost Al his whole body. And to bring Al's soul back to the suit of armor, he lost his leg for that.
Okay, so I was right. Thank you.
Yeah. You mean he lost his arm?
He lost the leg as well. Pretty sure.
I'm 90% sure. But anyways, the facts are, this is the trauma that happened to him when they were...
His left leg was divinely severed, and then his right arm was taken in exchange for his brother's soul.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's swapped.
Yeah. Swapped, yeah. So the whole series is him trying to figure out the alchemist thing, fighting villains, this and that. He comes to... the dad's another alchemist, isn't he? Like he's like a state instructor or something like that.
No one knows till the end of the series, so
yeah. Okay. They go to him. He has a daughter, Nina, and Nina has a dog named what's the dog's name?
Oh, you're talking about Show Tucker, not Ed and Elric's dad.
No.
He goes by, doesn't he go by Father? Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's like something important that they're learning from.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, she has a dog. And she starts calling Edward, big brother, loves the girl. And the dad's trying to learn he's trying to make a chimera, like a sentient, talking, knowledgeable chimera. Edward and Al leave for a bit, and they come back. Dad has found a way to make walking, sentient, talking chimera. We see that, to me, as the audience, you can clearly tell that this is Nina and her dog mixed together. It has
it's
her hair.
Explicitly done to do that too.
Yeah, but Edward doesn't realize it. I don't think he wants to realize it. And he's like, I made this, repeat after me. And the dog chimera, Nina Chimera, speaks exactly how the dad wants it to, and everything. And I'm going to post a clip. And he comes to find out horribly that this is in fact Nina and the dog. And Edward is unspeakably angry and goes to rip this motherfucker apart. And Nina basically asks him not to. So he has to be humane and find his humanity in the moment. So that's the scene. It is, understandably, when you watch this, we were very much younger than we are today. And it was a fucked up tearjerker moment that this dad would sacrifice his only child. He's lost his wife, only family left, for the sake of being, accredited in his line of work. So he chose himself, his goals, over his own flesh and blood. And if you're watching it and you have trauma from that memory, I'm sorry.
God. I remember very specifically, I read this manga first.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting to the scene like in the manga when they reveal it. It's like a full page reveal.
Uh-huh.
And the drawing of of Edward's face is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then the scene, like I just watched the scene again, where she like drops the back of his like coat that she's
Mm-hmm.
holding him back, and she says like "No, big brother," broke me.
Yeah, because in a way, it's Edward reflected.
Mm-hmm.
He tried doing something that is against the laws of alchemy. The laws of alchemy are there for a reason, and when you mess with it, it has horrible consequences. This little girl is very young. I say she's under 8, so she's still innocent and looks at the world with childlike wonder. And the dad, like I said, for his own personal gain, just made her a monster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very horrible. And I think, because we were talking about the lessons learned, we see, like I said, you're an innocent child, you don't see the world of evil, so she doesn't understand her dad's not right. Edward kind of figure out, like, maybe he's just, like, really stressed. Whatever. So you see innocence destroyed, and it's also that idea of obsession and unchecked ambition. When Nina's dad is willing to sacrifice her for his career ambitions, it really shows Edward that his humanity, empathy, and decency has to stay in check. Like, he wants to restore his mom, he wants to restore Alphonse, but at what cost? So that's something I think for him is that check back and stack, that every time he wants to possibly teeter on the brink of, oh, I can do this. Like, alchemy can bend to me, that you really can't. Because I think Edward is noticeably very much still shaken and changed throughout the whole series. Just based off this one encounter. Before this, he was still almost very childlike himself. Everything, very cocky, very lackadaisical and humorous about stuff. And this, I think, aged him up a little bit, where he was even more of an adult in his life. Of, oh, you have to be the big brother, you have to be the one in charge, and care for the people around you.
Because can you remind me, when does this happen in the series?
I think it's very early on. I want to say it's.
That's what I thought.
Episode 3.
Yeah, I knew it was like early.
And pretty much episode 1 and 2 are just setting up the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So it is technically our first episode into the series.
I also think too. So, do you care if I go first?
You can
go. So tearjerker, I'm gonna give it an 8. It's more, I think to me, it's almost more shocking than it is sad.
Yeah.
And then you think about like how sad it is as the series goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Because like to me, I'm still reeling almost of like, wow, like what happened with Al and with him and everything, and like to me, like it doesn't hit that bad, but it's also like as the series goes on, it hits harder.
Yeah, and I think it's more so sadder when you relive it. You're like, we really had to watch that shit.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it an 8 for tearjerker. Storyline impact, I'm gonna say maybe a 6. It doesn't have a ton of storyline impact. Like you said, it's a reminder of like this is why you can't. Yeah, this is why you can't like mess with the law of equivalent exchange. Like you have to respect the rules of alchemy in this.
Yeah.
And lesson time, it's a 10. Like you said, the thing about unchecked ambition, the thing about respecting others, respecting autonomy. Don't be an asshole to your kids.
Yeah.
plain and simple. Like, and then sometimes you got to grow up and you got to stand up for people that can't, even when you're not ready.
Yep.
So that for me is a 24.
I will accept that.
Just throwing haymakers right out of the gate.
I that's what I was hoping I'd be the first one that I could get to pick Full Metal just for that reason.
Yeah, I guess my turn.
I'm sorry.
Silver's not going to be as nice.
I'm not good with emotional scenes, as I don't really recognize them very well. I was like, oh, okay, so you can actually turn people into, you can mix them. Like, that's different.
Silver was more like, oh man, you can make chimeras in this show.
I was like, wow, are they going to do anything with this plot hook they just put here?
Fun fact, they don't.
They don't. Nope. I can recognize it as a tear-jerking moment, so I'm going to give it a 7. Storyline impact. It does teach him stuff, but it's never really brought too much back up later on in the series, if I remember right. But it does like do a character development, which is more towards lesson time. So I'm also going to give it a 6. In lesson time, there is a fairly big lesson here about, again, not messing with equivalent exchange and humanitarian. Don't be a dick. Especially since later on we figured out that he already did that to his wife as well. So I'm going to give it a 9.
He should 100% be up there for like worst characters in anime.
Oh yeah,
I think he pretty much is.
Mm-hmm.
On all the rankings. So 6, 7, 9 is 22. That was a good one, Bird.
Thank you. Also, like, there's an emotional trauma of walking around at cons and you seeing Nina's around is,
Yeah. That's what gets me is like the lasting effect of it. Because like it didn't have a big story impact, but it has like certain scenes from shows happen later on that you're just like, why'd you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially since they did this scene twice in Full Metal Alchemy and Full Metal Alchemy Brotherhood.
Yeah. In the second one.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
Full Metal Alchemist.
I could find the redone one all over YouTube. I couldn't find the original, and I was like, the original is so much more impactful because of the whole.
If you've never read this and you want like a good cry, read that chapter. I think it's chapter 2, because I don't think it's in the first one. It is like the way it's drawn and the way they like pace it out is it's potentially one of the best chapters I've ever read. It's so good.
All right, I might actually try to read it.
It should be, because I think it's a shonen, right? It should be on.
I think it is.
I think it should be on the shonen app.
Shonen,
whatever. It's all the same.
It is also 20 years old. FMA
true.
came out in 2004.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's what I said. When we were way younger when we watched that for the first time, and I think that's one of those first times in anime where I was like, "Oh, they do some fucked up shit." Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like watching Dragon Ball Z for the first time and watching like Frieza drill a hole through Krillin's chest with his horn. I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah, I was
like, "We're in that room, huh?"
Ideally, I'd when this episode first came out, I would have been 14. That's in a very emotional time in your childhood life.
I was like 10.
Yeah, so
Jesus.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
What'd you say? You're
no,
older
you
than
weren't.
Me.
Lying. Anyway.
I'd be 10. I was 4. You're 2 years older than me.
That's lying.
Math ain't math in here, friend.
Amen. No.
All right. So next is going to be wheel spinning. Wheel's going to spin again because it's Bird. Let me spin again.
Bird for a third time.
Spinning.
I don't want to go all the way.
Holy shit, I'm spinning. Wheel is spinning. Yes, it's me.
That's just the loading sign. The one they call the throbber.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew you brought that up just so you could say throbber.
Oh, anyways, that's an emotional damage right there.
Yeah. So my pick for emotional damage, As soon as you had anime, I thought you were going to pick this one, and I'm so thankful that you didn't.
Okay.
Mine is from a show that I know we all watch because we talk about it all the time. Uh, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, that's my second one taken tonight.
Oh no, I know what you're. I think I know what you're doing, and I hate you for it. I didn't even think
Specifically,
about it.
I have two from the show, but this one I'm going to use because it's
Fuck you.
available. Specifically from the second, I believe it's the second book. It's the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode, and it's kind of a slice of life episode. So, and I want to set the scene because this is really great. When the when this episode happens, we are in the middle of the second book. Iroh and his nephew Zuko are on run from the Fire Nation. They've been they were already outcasted, but now they're rebelling against the Fire Nation. They're trying to live peacefully, not cause any disturbances, and live their lives. They have a tea shop. He's trying to teach Zuko to be a better person, to guide him on the right path. We find out later on, obviously, his goal was to get Zuko to help the Avatar. Um, so during this, he's trying to instill all those lessons in him and help him become a person. This is a slice of life episode that kind of it goes through Iroh's day and shows him helping some people in the city and making tea and again teaching Zuko some of those lessons. And then at the end of the day, as the sun is setting, he goes to a lone tree on a hill in the outskirts of Ba Sing Se and has a little ceremony for his son who was killed in the war. And he sings a song that he used to sing to his son when he was little. And it's called Leaves on the Vine. Um, I cry at this every single time I watch it. It is one of the saddest renditions. The the episode is actually dedicated. I think it's the voice actor who
It is the first
plays.
one.
It is.
Yeah, the first voice actor that plays Iroh. He passed away from lung cancer
I
during the recording. I think it was a recording of the first book or sometime in that first season.
I
So
think I think he had just found out that he had gotten cancer when he had recorded this thing. And I
yeah,
think
and
that's
it's
the lore behind it.
yeah, and you can tell because it is like it's broken up as he's recording because you can hear him crying through it. And it's very emotional. There's this picture of his son and he's got like some apples next to it, which is a very Japanese kind of dedication to them to give them nutrients in the afterlife and help them pass over and honoring their memory. um, and he lights some little sage with it or little incense with it too. It's very emotional. And I also really like that it's a kind of with the lesson piece. It's a reminder that you know life sucks, and it's gonna suck, and you got to do what you can while you can, and you got to help others when you can. And a reminder that he's doing everything he can for Zuko for his son, essentially.
I hate that episode.
It's I I've grown to love it as I've gotten older because it's such a it's a cool I don't really like the filler slice of life episodes. This one really and then when you realize at the end of the series who Iroh is
Mm-hmm.
and the person he is as the series goes on, it harps back to that so much.
Oh
It
yeah,
shows you that he values life so much because of this event.
I agree. All right, I'll go first with rating it. Tearjerker. I didn't appreciate the episode when I first watched it because at that age you don't understand
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the backstory of his son kind of died because he was such a big he was, the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
You know. He kind of fueled a lot of the things that happened. He wasn't there. He wasn't a good dad at the time. He wasn't a good person at the time. And Iroh that we know now that saved Zuko, tried saving so many other people, um, was because of this moment. So as an adult, I'm gonna say that's a 10. Because it's and like all through it, he's trying to get to this moment to remember his son's birthday, to honor him, and he's helping kids in the street when he's lost his own kid. He's doing other things for other people because it's not about him. It'll be about him when it's about him. So it's a 10. Story impact, I'm gonna give it a 6 because at the time you don't realize it. You get all the other pieces as you go. So but in that moment in time it's a solid 6 where you're like, oh, Iroh is really like he's a good person, and he's the kind of people we want in the world that Airbender is in right now.
Yeah.
Oh, listen here. Lesson time. I would say, like you said, because you don't realize it until later. I would say it's I would say a 5. Like it's trying to teach Zuko to be good and everything. So I think I'm gonna go with a 5.
Okay. For me, I think the tearjerker is probably not a 10, but maybe a 8. Still better, a little more than Fullmetal Alchemist. The song really puts it into the sad mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's no sound effects too.
It's just that instrument, that very slight string instrument.
Because normally the show has this like background, almost just like a hum noise throughout the whole show, and it's dead silent. It's very, very like hard.
Storyline impact. We knew about the death. His son was dead before this at one point because they mentioned it they set it up, which is a good setup for it. Then actually came around to the day of with Uncle Iroh and him helping out and everything. I'm sure they probably would have touched on it again, but the Avatar actually ended before another whole year came around, if I remember right, because of Sozin's comet.
Yeah. This is, I think, this is just before the eclipse, I believe, which is only a couple months before Sozin's comet.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think that the whole series of Avatar takes place in like a year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's been like years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say probably maybe a 6 as well for storyline. Lesson time? I think it also shows people pay respect for the dead. Always remember death can change people from being a war tyrant known as a dragon to
Yeah.
being a White Lotus. Not a
So
tyrant,
that's,
but
yeah, I think that's something I took away from it more is like, because this is a series where you're taught the whole time that like the Fire Nation is evil and they're all they care about is killing people and da 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 da. But then also like this is a war for them too. Like not everyone in this, even Iroh, who's the brother of the Fire Lord, is suffering from this war
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
that he doesn't really want to be a part of. Like it's not like he is wanting to do this.
And it's kind of like insinuated that if he hadn't lost his son, he would have been the Fire Lord.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Like he would have been probably way worse than Soza, like his brother.
Also, Avatar does not show death very often. They mention it, but they don't show it. Just like anybody getting hit with one of Toph's boulders, dead. They're just knocked out.
That person got shot by lightning. No, they're fucking dead.
Yeah.
That person got hit by a fireball. Okay, they're dead.
Plus, it being outside of the anime itself, being in memory for the voice actor for that played Uncle Iroh is also a big.
I liked that.
I'm going to give it a 8 for lesson time because it kind of teaches if you both sides are affected by the war, not just not just one.
Yeah,
that's something I didn't think of, but and that's right.
You can up your score if you want.
I'll do a 7.
Hey.
And also, and I think it's a unique take on this. For like emotional moments is very unique for different people, and like because I'm a girl, like I just cried everything. I'm just that emotional mess. I'm like, oh, there's dogs and they're cute and like so where I'm like, that's a 10, that's crying. Y'all are like, that's not that bad. I'm like, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, this was. I feel like that too. This was like every time I watch it, I think I cry at it. Because
would you put
everyone,
it at a 10?
Huh?
Would you put it at a 10 if you're rating yourself?
Every time.
Okay.
11 if I could.
11.
It's so like because every time, like I said, you always think back to like you think back to people. Like there's certain people in your life you're like, oh, I lost that person, and then it immediately takes me to that place, and then I cry thinking of that.
How are you doing on the resurgence of Uncle Iroh TikTok a couple months back?
Shut
and
up.
all you heard was leaves on the vine. I was like, no.
So I deleted TikTok. I don't have TikTok anymore. It made its way to my Instagram Reels.
Oh no!
Now, not because of that. I haven't had TikTok for months, but it made its way to my Instagram Reels. I was like, how the fuck am I
Get
here?
away from me!
It's like, do not come here.
That's how I feel about freaking Nina. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So, since we can't do Avatar again, want me to tell you what mine was?
Yeah.
Appa being stolen.
Oh, that's a good one. Was that your other one?
No, my other one is, I can say it now because I can't use it, is when Aang finds Monkey Atso.
Oh, yeah.
That's a hard scene to watch.
Yeah, because that's for him. That's like his childhood breaking finally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that was like one of the last visits of his childhood.
And it's also the moment when like you realize, oh, they murdered, like, this is a genocide. Like, they murdered an entire race of people.
Yeah.
And so you guys see, I seen it as, oh, look at all these Fire Lords or Fire Nation soldiers around Monkey Atso, the pacifist monk that are just laying there dead.
That's another point.
He killed like 50 people, dude.
When you think of the Air Nation was pacifists.
Mm-hmm.
Up until like a certain point, like even at this point, like Aang's like, I don't want to hurt anyone. Like, we can solve this peacefully. And I think like as you're kind of getting on, that's one of those first times where he's like, I'm gonna get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gonna be good for anyone.
Like you said, his childhood breaks.
Yeah. If one airbender could do that, what is the Avatar gonna do after you've murdered his whole family? Yeah. His whole nation.
There's, I think it's Avatar, is it in Korra? There's like a resurgence of airbenders or whatever, and the one guy becomes an airbender. He like gets airbending powers, and he uses it to, one of his things is he pulls the air out of their lungs.
Yeah.
And their lungs collapse and they die. I was like, can you imagine Monkey Atso doing that to like 5 people around him? Just like pulling the air out of them and then using it to kill someone.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so wild.
That and bloodbending, I think, are the two gruesomest forms of bending. And it's that point of, I'm stopping being nice. I've given you a chance to not be a dick.
Bloodbending is the first time I've ever turned, like, pause that show. Like, I think I watched it recently and I was like, I pause it every time it's like the bones cracking and shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it makes my skin crawl.
Avatar is really good at telling like that background of, like you said with Leaves on Vine, there's no background music. It's just that sad plucking music and it's him breaking. And they're really good about telling you like a background story of your surroundings to kind of like humanize it.
I think that's the only episode too that doesn't go to like credits. It shows the like memorial page and then it stops.
Yep.
That crazy. But yeah, that was mine.
And
I believe our last one is Silver.
And we've stolen two of
as he's furiously trying to find.
What else do I have?
Yeah, since you guys both stole my scenes.
Hi.
My backup and my first scene.
Real sorry.
Are we though?
At least the shows.
Yeah.
So we'll just go with one that was super recent. That I'm going to put a spoiler warning for My Hero Academia.
No.
Oh, I was wondering.
Sorry, Bird. You're probably not caught up.
So I haven't technically watched the last 2 episodes, but Chaotic told me about the bullshit. So I've suffered mentally. I just haven't suffered visually.
I will put this in when we edit too. If you do not want to hear spoilers for this, skip, I don't know, 10 minutes.
I'd say 10, 15, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you hear us on a different topic, then go back a little bit.
Go back a little bit.
10 seconds at a time, people.
So my scene is from My Hero Academia. Most recent is the Bakugo versus Shigaraki, the outcome of Bakugo's death. So Bakugo is holding off Shigaraki, and in order to, hold him there till Deku gets there in order to fight with him. Bakugo awakens his quirk to where his body's damaged so bad, all his nitroglycerin is now leaking out of all his pores. So now he can use his explosions from pretty much anywhere. And he's actually dealing quite a bit of damage to Shigaraki. Quite a bit to none. It's more than everybody else has been doing. And Shigaraki just kinda gets flustered and finally catches Bakugo. And one good strong hit at All Might strength level with his fingers pretty much knocks Bakugo down, and the scene kind of fades with a still shot of Bakugo, his eyes looking dead, covered in blood and wounds, and a big hole in his chest. And he's one of the main MCs, so it's kind of surprising to a lot of people.
I don't like that scene. Not cool.
It's hard to like it.
This scene also caused a lot of issues in the manga as well, as it caused, I think, 13 people to suicide after the author did it.
Oh
Which is
no.
pretty much why next chapter they worked on bringing him back.
Oh, that's
This is called the Bakugo 13 incident.
that's horrible. And then to revert. Oh wow.
That's why they did it. They were afraid of like the
More
backlash
people.
of it from people, but they were also afraid more people would take their lives.
Oh my
I think it
god.
was also already planned to bring him back, and people just kind of get in. But after he did this, I think he went on a break.
Oh no,
Yeah, there was a
you
little bit of
can't
a
do
break.
that to people.
My Hero Academia fandom is probably one of the best and worst there is.
Good and bad.
Oh no.
Oh goodness. I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
I will say, and I'm very sorry for this over Tearjerker. I'm gonna put it at about a 6. I knew because like when they're fighting this battle, there was a lot of there was a lot of death flags. There was a lot. Like when he does the thing where
Mira.
he spouts all the little like blasters from the back of his suit. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is it. It's still sad. It is still sad. So I'm gonna say like a 6. Because it is still sad, but also like you saw it coming. I also feel like it loses just a little bit of weight when the very next episode Ed Shot comes in and is like, oh, I can save him. Like I get why, but like yeah, you could have just kept him dead. Storyline impact. I'm actually gonna say about a 7 because this shows that like his quirk awakened at this time. And as we find out, like at the end of the series, he becomes a top hero. Like he's one of the top heroes. Um, he's incredibly strong. So I think that's important to remember for the story as well. And then the only lesson I can get out of this is if you hurt, stay down.
I think that's a line for any anime.
Yeah, literally. So lesson time I'm gonna say about a 6. So 6, 7, 6. 19.
All right. So Bird was wrong. Bird was thinking of Demon Slayer because I am very stressed this week and my brain has become soup. I have not seen this, so I'm going into this as someone is one of those times that I have not seen it. I haven't gotten up
Demon
very
Slayer.
much. Yeah.
Demon
Yeah.
Slayer would have
So
been so good. I know what scene you're talking about.
The
yeah.
beginning of the series, the one that's 3 minutes into the fucking show. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's towards
No.
the end.
Yeah. But yeah, so going in as an outside perspective, love Bakugo. And from what I've seen, like his character arc was really getting good when I stopped watching. So to see him here to sacrifice himself, and he's pretty vain about himself. Love him, but he is. It's kind of like a oh wow. I'll give it a 6 for emotional tearjerker because, like you said, if there's signs, and in shows like this, it's the people closest around the main character that they sacrifice themselves a little bit.
There's a scene I think it's a couple chapters or no, it's like a lot of chapters before this when they fight Shigaraki the first time when he like jumps in front of the like rivets to save Deku. That was when I was like, "Oh, he's going to die."
Yeah. So, and I just watched Sailor Moon Crystal, and like I feel like in animes, especially these kind of hero animes, people die. That's for the main character's own arc. of, oh, you killed someone really close to me, so now you're gonna get hurt. So it's a 6, I would say. Storyline impact, 5, because like you said, it's kind of like he comes back the next episode. It's really good for his powers unlocking, but a 5.
I
Lesson
think
time. Yes, go ahead.
I think he wasn't really trying to sacrifice himself. He was half unconscious during that last little spurt of fight, just fighting on instincts.
Okay.
Because Bakugo's just a chihuahua.
Yeah, and then right at the end when he sees the vestige of All Might.
Yeah.
That part is hard.
Yeah, I'll say, like I said, haven't fully watched everything, but just from like hearing it, I'll say a 5 for storyline. Lesson time. Again, going into it like not knowing it, seeing much of it, it's harder. 5. To see him changed, I think is a lot. To like knowing that he's a top hero in the day of, and I have a thing in Diagnosis. I choose the bitch characters. I choose the people that get redeemed. So I think Lesson Time is a 5 because it shows even the douchiest, meanest kind of bullies can make an impact. So that's what I will give that. I don't like it. I don't like that at all, but
I don't like
that's
it.
what I'll give it.
Just keep watching it over and over again. It'll get to you eventually.
No.
I also, and I know that didn't affect my point system at all, but I will say it here. I really wish they would have had his fucking mentor is right there. He could have figured out some way to like reattach his heart fibers and his abilities would have been cooler. Just saying. Stupid.
I wish
Stupid.
that when Edge shot went into him to put his heart back together, that he also got Edge shot's quirk.
That'd be cool. He makes like ply a body and then it explodes.
Yeah.
He's just like ply a body through someone and blows them in half.
And I don't know if you noticed at the very end of the scene when Bakugo's laying there unconscious or dead, his All Might card falls out.
Yeah. It's covered isn't covered in blood.
It is covered in blood and it's kind of torn and crinkled. Should use a top loader.
Should have used the top loader.
So yeah, 16 from Bird. So,
and Bird, that goes back to you. So you can either pick movies or TV. And we did agree for TV, you can do an animated TV show, correct? Or is it just live action?
You can do an animated TV show.
Okay, just making sure.
Because, like I said, my backup choice, if someone had taken Full Metal, was an anime movie. So it's kind of like sometimes you got that duality. Mm-hmm. But for my movie is, and I'm going to ask, has anyone seen The Green Mile?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that where the superhero has the green car and it has like a green?
No,
that's the Green Hornet.
Okay.
The Green Mile is actually written by Stephen King, and they transformed it into a movie. It's set into a 1930s Louisiana prison. It's narrated by Paul Edgecombe, who is a head guard in a death row section of the prison. He is played by Tom Hanks, who is a very emotional actor as it is. He meets John Coffey, who is like a 6'7" African American man on death row for supposedly killing a white girl. He's very gentle. He can actually heal people. That's his superpower. He heals people, takes their pain into him, and suffers for them to heal them. And he takes care of a little mouse. He's, like I said, he's just a huge dude, and I forget who plays him. Michael Clark Duncan. He's been in a few things. If you want to look him up, Silver.
Yeah, he passed a couple years ago.
Yeah, he passed a couple years ago. And you come to the end of the movie where he's getting executed, and this is when they have the electric chair. They have the hood over the head, and this man who is a giant, heals people, said he's been afraid of the dark. He's tortured by being afraid of the dark. They go to put the hood over his head, and he begs Paul's character to not basically end his life with him being afraid in the dark. And Paul, who has grown to love this man, respect him, almost wanting to break his hardcore set of rules, moral values of you're on death row, you're obviously a killer, you're obviously bad, wants to break him out almost. So he looks him in the eyes and makes the decision to basically see him die. He isn't, yes, that is what Cal just reminded me of. He is innocent. He did not kill the two little girls. He is 1000% innocent and got blamed for a crime that he did not commit. So, Paul has to look this man in the eyes, knowing that he's innocent, knowing that he heals people, that he is good in the world, and he has to watch him die. And if you've seen movies with the electric chair, it is a violent thing. In the scene, because of his powers of everything hitting him, all the lights break, all the light goes out. So when he passes, it's in the dark. So it's kind of that very beautiful cinematic moment and sad moment that, he's passed. And like I said, you learn about injustice. He's a good man. He's an innocent man. Because he's African American in Louisiana in the 1930s, he obviously did it because he was there. You learn about, like I said, compassion, humanity, that people appearances are deceiving, and all that. And so it's a really powerful moment when John dies.
Yeah, I have seen Green Mile. It's one of my dad's favorite movies, so I've watched it quite a bit. I'm gonna say tearjerker. I'm gonna say about a 7. I think I cried recently when I watched it, but not like super bad. But it is very. You said cinematic. It is very like well shot. I think that kind of adds to it too.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like Michael Clark Duncan. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. He was a great actor. That is a really good scene for him in that movie.
Yeah, to see him, like I said, to see anyone when you're that tall and that big of a giant, to see
Mhm.
someone so emotional that they're just crying and begging, it's like,
Yeah.
oh.
I think that was something too. Was like it was the first movie I ever saw where it showed a man like a man, like you saw him genuinely breaking, which is very wild, and it also teaches you that like the world isn't fair. Storyline impact, a 7. I mean, especially in regards to that movie, like that's the whole like crux of the movie is that he's killed and all of that. So I'm gonna say 7 for that. Lessons, it's an 8. Like it teaches you a lot of stuff about the world. It's not always fair. It's very rarely fair. Everything like that. So 22.
Okay.
I have not seen the movie. I just watched the clip, and all the other guards were crying, except for the
Mm-hmm.
one that pulled the lever. He looked just kind of angry.
He's a dick in the movie,
Yeah. He's
and
the worst.
Paul's character actually gets him good, like lowers him because Paul's a head guard, and he like reams him a new one in front of all the prisoners and takes away his man card. So yeah,
That's good.
he's just a jerk. Don't worry about him.
There was definitely a lot of tears going. I looks like it'd be is that the end of the movie, or did they continue after that?
There's an ending. You don't realize it at the time, but Paul actually gets the immortality, almost like it's slow aging, kind of immortality thing, and the powers of John, along with Mr. Jingles, which is the mouse I mentioned earlier. So there's a scene later on in the movie where Paul is aged, but like you can tell like he's older than he should be, and he has the mouse, which is the same, and the mouse should not have lived like 60 plus years. So you kind of see the impact of John Coffey's legacy of he got to be a better person because of John Coffey. He quit the prison, him and Bull, the bald-headed man that was in the movie also crying. They both left to be better lives, away from the Green Mile, but just impacted by how gentle the man was in the lessons. But that is pretty much
Okay.
the thing in the movie. The other part's like I would say an epilogue, pretty much.
Don't they find out afterwards too that he was innocent? Don't they cover that in the movie?
Yes. If you watch the movie, there's a very violent criminal that messes with everyone in there. He's just like foul, deranged, psychotic. he's the person that actually killed the 2 little girls, and you find that out, that John died for no reason.
So tearjerker, I'll just give it a, for me, probably just a 6.
That's fair.
Storyline impact. Without John dying, would Paul have been able to get the immortality?
No.
So that's kind of big there for the end of the story after his death. I'm going to give that a 8. And lesson time, I'm going to go with a 7.
Okay, I'll take it. Like I said, it's. I think it's harder when you're rating a thing you haven't seen, but I think it makes the scores kind of like, oh, okay, like,
It makes you want to fight for it more.
yeah. I will also preface this: the first time I watched this, along with The Notebook, I watched the saddest parts of the movie at like 3:00 in the morning. So I'm just silently in my bed.
So,
Okay.
so I was partially right then
What?
about this. This is partially a superhero movie because there
Yeah.
is superpowers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
My backup was going to be no. My backup was going to be when Doctor Strange told Tony that he was doing the right thing at the end of Endgame.
Yeah. See,
So,
I like that. I didn't cry as much at that
no.
scene. It didn't make me that. It made me more proud.
Yeah, which
Because
is an
I was
emotional
like,
damage.
fuck yeah, like that's my guy.
Well, and it's like, because like, that's like 20 something years of
Mm-hmm.
Marvel movies to get through. You're like, oh my god. So it was an emotional damage of, we got to hear
Yeah.
of, I'm Iron Man.
Well, you think
So,
back to like the first 2 specifically Iron Man movies, even the third one too. Tony Stark, like they try to change his character, and he does little things to be better,
but he
but
kind of
it's
steps
never.
back.
Yeah, he's never fully not an asshole.
Yeah.
He doesn't have like a full character change. He's like, no, I'm still a dick. I just don't make weapons anymore.
Yeah.
I do. I just use them myself.
I don't cheat on women anymore.
I only have one wife.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was going to be my emotional damage. But I was like, no, I'm going to go with the Green Mile.
Mhm. I like that one. Yeah. I have one that actually you just made me think of. So I don't know which one I want to do. I think knowing my audience, I'm gonna audible here.
Okay.
Let me find the.
The clip.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go with my movie.
Okay.
This is from Avengers Infinity War.
Okay.
This is one of the harder scenes in that movie. This is towards the end.
I
Obviously
know.
chaotic.
Yep.
This movie fucked me up for a long time because it ends more on a cliffhanger. For those of you that don't know, spoilers are this movie's been out for like 12 years, so whatever, you're fine.
Can I guess real quick?
What are you gonna guess?
Spider-Man, Mr. Stark.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So this scene is like I said, towards the end of the movie, Thanos has just collected all the Infinity Stones. They do their best to stop him, and they would have stopped him if it wasn't for one particular asshole in the movie
Fucking idiot.
who's a piece of shit, Star-Lord, and is an idiot, and they would have stopped him, and the whole crisis would have been averted. But no, he decided to be an arrogant dick.
I got
So
this.
yeah, I got it. No, you fucking don't.
Shut up.
So because of that, he gets all the Infinity Stones, and then he performs the snap and wipes out half of humanity throughout the galaxy. The part of it that is the hardest is that this happens on Titan, which is the home planet. It's a moon of Mars, the home planet of Thanos. And fighting on that planet was Tony, Peter Parker, Spider Man, and a couple other individuals. Like I said, all the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that was pretty much it. Stephen Strange is there, so a couple of them are fighting Thanos, and then he does the snap. During this scene, there is a moment where they start seeing. There's a couple people on the planet that disappear. I think Groot is one of them. I'm not sure who else on that planet dies specifically, but one of the ones that dies is Spider-Man, who he has a suit, he has his helmet off of his suit, and he turns to Tony, who at this point, if you aren't familiar with the first couple of movies, is if you aren't familiar with the movies, has been a father figure to him for the last 2 movies. He's the one that gave him the suit. The first Spider-Man movie, that Spider-Man Homecoming movie, he fathers him. Like, he teaches him how to be a hero and essentially tells him, like, I want you to be better than I am. So in this, Spider-Man starts to disappear, and he utters a phrase which is, it's hard to hear. Honestly, he looks at Tony and he goes, "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." Almost just like a kid telling his parent, like, I don't feel good. And then you see he looks off, like, almost dead-eyed. He, like, looks off to the right, and then you see him just turn into dust. And then Tony is left there. His hand was, like, on Peter's chest, and then it just falls to the ground where he was, and then Tony just cries.
Something to think about, and it's more like if you're kind of well versed into, especially Spider-Man lore. Spider-Man felt it beforehand. Why he says he doesn't feel good is his spider sense.
Mm-hmm.
And his spider sense is almost fighting with this. We're going to die.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to happen to them. You don't know what the snap does. So it makes it harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Thanos never says what he wants to do. He just says, like, he said, like, he says he's going to get rid of half the world, but he never says that that's how he's going to do it. Silver, are you first for me?
I think so.
I picked one that I knew you'd seen.
I have seen this one.
If you hadn't, I would have been mad.
Did we go watch this in theaters?
We saw this one in theaters, yeah.
The Spider-Man dying scene, I can see as being emotional, and I didn't want Spider-Man to die because he was one of my favorite characters. And him not being in the further movies, it's like, oh, bummer.
That's the most you're going to get out of Silver. Aw, bummer.
I mean, Tony used his nanotechnology to incorporate all of Spider-Man's ashes. It would have been like you have a jar of Spider-Man.
A jar?
A jar o' Spider-Man.
He might have been able to refix him.
He was cosmically snapped out of existence.
This wasn't like he has a bullet wound, Silver. He faded into the void.
There's
no ashes for him to collect.
So technically, not dead.
Oh my god.
You know what? I know it's what we were expecting, but
he did. He did.
Emotional damage.
I'm going to give this with the same as Uncle Iroh, an 8. Storyline impact. It really hurt Tony later on.
Tony is never the same the entire, like, time after this. Like, up until he does what he does at the end of what the fuck is that last movie even called? Endgame. Up until he does, like, at the end of that, he does it because of this. Like, I don't think if this happens, he has the courage to do that. Because he understands, like, this isn't an event where, like, oh, some of my friends got hurt. It's like, the kid that I was a father to died. And then for him to have the courage to give up his own family, because he wasn't even going to help them. He was like, my wife survived, my kid survived, I'm chilling. I'm going to go live my life.
Yeah, because Tony changed the whole plot at the end of Endgame, and so we're just reversing time to before the snap. He just brought everybody back so that he could save his family as well. Otherwise, if he didn't have all that, he might just reverse time.
Brought Spider-Man back and been like, okay, we're done.
Which he could just, reverse time, but kept Pepper and I forget his daughter's name.
Morgan
there, just brought them back too.
I think it's really hard especially when, and I think Tony is aware of that. It's really hard when you start thinking about I want this, but this, and this, but this. I think it's when you were especially like making wishes or these kind of things, you got to make it as simple as possible.
Plus, Thanos was kind of coming pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. He is inevitable.
Lesson time. Lessons of, there is consequences for their actions. Never trust Star-Lord.
Amen.
Oh, well.
Fuck that guy. No, don't try to defend him. Never.
I
I can't fucking stand
I
his
remember
character.
in the theaters, I was like, "Don't fucking do it! Don't fucking do it! Don't fucking!" And then it was you got it. It was right there. It was his tip of his finger, like when you crook your finger, that very last crook of your fingertip, where it was almost off, and he's like, oh, "I'm stupid." So
I can't wait to clip you going, oh, I'm stupid.
listen, when it comes to that guy,
So lesson time. I'm going to have to give that a 8 as well because Tony learns stuff from Peter's death and that scene. So does pretty much everybody else watching their friends just vanish.
I
Rocket
think,
and Groot.
yeah, Rocket and Groot is tough. And I think it helps too. He's the youngest. He's a child. Like he's 16, 17 at the time of this.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if like, oh, Tony's a 40-year-old man, or like, Captain America who's a 75-year-old adult. Like if one of them
leave him
dies, like that's
alone.
whatever. It sucks, but it's like, oh, it's not bad.
He snuck onto the rocket.
That yeah, he jumped on the rocket with the assistant of the suit. Tony built him.
Yeah.
So it was his fault that he died.
Yeah.
So my total was 26.
Much appreciated.
Okay. Tearjerker. This one is it might upset, but it's for a reason. I'm going to say a 7 because I was more pissed off. Because of Star-Lord. That it took me a while. It took me like a couple seconds to like fully impact of, oh. Like after the credit rolled, I was like, are you serious? No, because I was. But there was anger in it, so I don't know. All right, 8.
That sounds like an 8, yeah.
Yeah, because the anger with it too isn't like, But yeah, it's just that moment of you had it. You were there. And like knowing beforehand, it's an 8. Storyline impact. I'm gonna have to say my reasons and my numbers are gonna be the same as Silver. It's a lot of things hinged on this one moment.
Mm-hmm. I still stand by this changes Tony as a person.
Yeah.
Like until his death.
This event is what drove him to be Doctor Doom.
Shut the fuck up.
Listen.
Lesson time, Bird?
It's the same. Across the board. I like when you're naming, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, so it'd be okay. 26.
So also 26? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
I feel like I helped with that one because I mentioned my backup.
Yeah, because I definitely didn't have that on my board.
What was the other one?
I had 3 other ones for movies. We're just gonna list all our honorable mentions now. I had Up, which was the one I was gonna go with from the Ellie and Carl scene at the beginning of the movie.
Wondering.
Hey, you might name mine, so
Okay, yeah, that's the one I'll say then.
Okay.
That was the one I was gonna go with, but that's such a hard scene.
Yeah.
I have not watched a lot of movies. Everybody knows this. I only get drugged to movies, or I watch random D-list weird movies,
trash movies,
like
Armageddon.
You have all the streaming things, all of them.
Yes,
all of them.
Watch movies.
I have watched a lot of the superhero movies.
Mm-hmm.
That just
we make you
once a month watch a new movie.
Once a week.
Start them off with a month.
There's too many.
Well,
his list of things to watch is already huge.
We know. At least it's not as bad as
including Dragon Ball Z Abridged, which should be at the top of that list.
So we're going back to high school, to a movie we were all forced to watch in high school. Even Bird probably, because we were forced to read the book of it first.
I feel like I know what this fucking is. Can I guess?
You can guess.
Is it Where the Red Fern fucking grows?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, is this To Kill a Mockingbird?
It is not, but it's in the same wheelhouse.
Hold on, there's another guest coming in.
Hang on.
We got a phone-in guest.
We got a phone-in guest. Are you doing... Oh, this is my favorite book. Are you doing Of Mice and Men?
It is Of Mice and Men. You are
Hear
correct.
me out. We never read the book or watched the movie.
No, you're getting a
Oh.
30 from me. Oh my god, I love this book.
It is Of Mice and Men, and it's going to be the scene at the very end.
Okay. Original choice. Oh, you would have gotten a 30 from me from Bridge to Terabithia. I almost chose Bridge to Terabithia.
That my original choice was Bridge to Terabithia, but I after seeing the Green Mile, it's just like, oh, this one reminds me more.
I've never seen Bridge to Terabithia, so we read it in like 4th grade, and I was like, wow, that's really sad. And then the movie came out. I was like, what the fuck would I watch this?
They made a lot of people watch it in elementary school.
Mm.
So pretty much George and Lenny are two main characters. Lenny has a learning disability or
Mm-mm.
mental disability. George does.
Lenny, yeah, Lenny. Lenny has, like, I think he's developmentally disabled. Like, he's a fully functioning adult with the mind of a like 10-year-old.
In the strength of Ox.
Yeah, he's a huge man.
They go pretty much a whole movie just protecting Lenny. So pretty much Lenny accidentally kills a girl, and instead of the town lynching him and killing him, George takes him down to the river and says they're going to go and have a rabbit farm. And while Lenny's distracted, George kills Lenny himself by shooting him in the head. And they actually show him up close with the gun. They don't cut away.
I'll go first because I'm going to silence Chaotic real quick.
Okay.
First off, this is my favorite book. I've read this book cover to cover 10 to 15 times. I love it. It's a great story. It's my favorite. That scene at the end is tough because the whole book is talking about how George is a caretaker for Lenny. He's essentially a father figure to him. He's like a brother to him and is taking care of him. They're just trying to live their lives. Where they are at is they're working on a farm. They're on a farm trying to work to provide for themselves. Lenny does accidentally kill this girl. It is very much an accident. She tries to come on to him and tries to have sex with him, takes advantage of essentially a 10-year-old boy who just happens to be an adult. He is developmentally disabled, and because of that, she tries to take advantage of him and have sex with him. He ends up killing her on accident, completely an accident. He does not know his own strength. He is an adult. He ends up snapping her neck on accident. It ends up being the owner's wife, I believe, and because of that, the owner is going to kill him himself. George convinces him, let me talk to him, let me figure this out. And I don't think the owner knows what he's going to do, but I think he has an idea. So he does the humane thing because he doesn't want Lenny to be lynched, and it's because that's really hard. And then the scene afterwards where he's standing there with the gun and like the shock of his face of like, what did I just do? Knowing he did what he thinks was right, but also he took someone's life. So him struggling with that dichotomy it's really hard to watch. The book, I think, does a much better, because it's like a whole chapter after he kills him. The book does a better job of explaining like how he feels in that. Yeah. So I'm gonna say tearjerker. I'm gonna say an 8, at least for me, because it's a really hard scene, especially going through this whole book, and you come to love Lenny, you come to really understand him as a person, and then just because he makes a mistake, he has to be killed. So he's treated very unfairly because of something he had no control over. I mean, storyline impact, they don't really touch on it, obviously, because it's the end of the book. George just killed somebody, so now he has to deal with that. So that's he kills, like I said, a son or a brother to him, so that's gonna ruin him as a person, I'm sure. So storyline impact, I'm gonna say about a 7, probably, just because you don't really see it. I'm gonna say about a 7 for lesson time too. You don't get a ton of lesson from this. The lesson that I took from it, especially when I was reading it for the first couple times, life is not fair, and that's the story of a lot of these books. In this one, it's mainly that like not everyone is dealt the same hand, and that you should take care of people and you should help people when you can. Because what George did, I think, was a humane thing to do, but also now he has to hold that, he has to bear that. So yeah, I'm gonna say 7. So
Okay.
what I say 8, 7, 7, 22.
Said going in, not having read the book, not seeing the movie. It's new to me because I understood the backline of what has happened in my cement. Like I know the story. So I think it makes me going in a little more clinical. I'll say this, like don't come at me. I'm going a little more clinical. Like I understand what happened, didn't understand the emotions or anything behind it. Tearjerker 7. I think it's like you said, he knows he's doing the humane thing. It'd be a lot less violent. He goes thinking of a happy memory. So I think it would have been worse if they'd lynched him, made it violent. So I think it's humane in that way. It is very tough knowing like how George takes care of him, but I'd say 7. I think the humanity is what kind of numbs it for me. Storyline impact 7, because like I said, you don't get to see the after effect. It's left to your knowledge of the character, understanding of what a heavy thing that is, and just putting 2 and 2 together. But because we don't get to see it, I feel like, and it's the end of the story, it's harder to impact the story. It's because that's a lot of the after effects, like we talked about. Lesson time, go with the 7 too, because like you said, it's not a fair hand. Same thing with John Coffey being a black man in the 1930s in southern Louisiana, or like Boo Radley's of the world. Like you are dealt a certain hand, and that's what you are.
I think this was also based in the 30s.
Yeah.
In the South.
I think it's earlier than that, actually.
It might be like the 20s based on
clothing. The 20s are like maybe turn of the century.
Yeah, it was wrote in the 30s. The book was.
Oh yeah, the book was wrote in the 30s. Its place, like I said, I think in around the turn of the century, maybe.
Yeah. It's like I said, 7 lesson time. It's you get an unfair hand. This is what life is. This is what you have to deal with, and it's unfortunately, and a lot of people don't talk about it. It's the people around you that kind of get that fallout. So I'd say 7's all through. Not going this with any personal emotion attached to it. I could say it has those impacts.
Do I win because I get 3 7s in a row?
You could say that.
It's low. Low.
I think 7's all through and not knowing it is pretty fucking good. Fair. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm sure Silver is happy with that too.
I knew I wasn't going to be very good on this one, so
you would have got me on Bridge of Tears with you.
Yeah, but I've never. It would have been the same thing. I've never seen it, so I would have given you like a 15.
I was banking on the, everybody has to read this book.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the book that like I read it multiple times and I got made fun of for it. So they're like, "Why the fuck are you reading that?" I was like, "This is all right. You're missing the point. Like, this is such a good book."
Yeah, I've heard it's one of those books that you should read before you die. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to, and it hasn't come up for me to be like, oh yeah, I do need to read that. So
yeah.
So is it going to be a Book Valkyries book?
I don't know.
I'm sure Chaotic has read it though.
Sorry, they read spicy books.
Yes.
Oh goodness.
This could be spicy. There's
No.
There's a spicy scene in it, or the start of one, and then it goes from spicy to tragic real fast.
Oh my god.
One would even call it neck breaking fast.
Oh my god. Get the your jokes are more emotionally damaged than the fucking
The gasp I gasped. My wife started saying that. I don't know why.
It's a TikTok thing. I think.
Yeah. The gasp I gasped.
All right, we ready for the final one?
Bring it on. This is TV, right?
Yes, and I know Matt. I know Silver has not freaking seen this, so it's more so for you. Have you
Okay,
watched
cool.
Sons of Anarchy?
I have too
This
seen
is
this one
gonna be a fun
actually,
one. Actually, this is
Oh,
flipped. I've never seen Sons of Anarchy.
but you have Silver.
because my roommates in college always had it on.
So you know
Fucking
what
off.
I would. Okay. So Sons of
That's
Anarchy
awesome.
is about Jax Teller, who is vice president in a motorcycle gang. He is straight and narrow for his president, which is his stepfather. In the very first couple episodes, he finds his actual father's memoirs about saying this motorcycle gang is no longer what it stood for. I want to change it. I want to get out of it. I want to have a peaceful life. This is no longer what we our ideals. Um, and everything. And by this time, and correct me if I'm wrong, we find out as the readers, the watchers, I mean, that his mother and stepfather killed his father and made it look like an accident because he was going to lead the life and destroy the Sons of Anarchy and what it stood for. Um, so by this point, Jax has started to try to pull out of the life, um, raise his family, be with his woman he loves finally, and they go to prison. Opie is his best friend, another 6'7" gentle giant motherfucker. Only got back in the Suns to take care of his family, to get an earning to take care of them. They go to prison and some for outfalls of previous deals, previous violence that they have incurred along the way. They're come with a choice. One of your members will have to be beaten in front of you to the death, in prison, and you get to pick. Opie volunteers himself for his brother, Jax, because they are brothers and everything. And we get to see it, what happened to Opie. And it's a really harsh scene. So just knowing that, yeah, he was getting out of the life once. It was it was Opie, not Jax, getting out of the life. Once he was done in prison, he was done. So he just gotten married. Um, yeah, he was gonna have a good life, and you unfortunately, like I said, get to see him passing, and it is violent, it is graphic. He goes down with a fight, and it's just hard. So some of the things that we emotionally and value lesson get is the sacrifice. It should have been Tig. It should have been Tig. Um, is the emotional weight of his sacrifice. He's protecting his brothers with his life, that is what you, when you join the gang, you're sacrificing your life for your brothers. And he does it literally, even though he was going to leave. It is the cost of violence, for choices that you've made. This is literally what you've reaped. And their icon of their gang is a reaper. So he is reaping for other people, for Tig. Um, Tig, who has also killed his wife, his first wife, the love of his life. And he is sacrificing for him. And it is also losing Opie really. Yeah, Jax was going to die. He was ready to die. And Opie did it for him. Opie took the hit, and like I said, it changes Jax for the rest of the thing, where he's like, there is that cost, there is that price of life, and he's never the same. I would say that he's like a shadow of himself afterwards from it. So yeah, it's a really hard scene to watch.
You want to go first, Mage?
I've never seen the show, so I'll let you go first, Silver.
I don't remember it a lot because I was watching anime on my TV on my computer while they had that on the TV as like a constant rerun. Opie's death is a real tearjerker, especially since he was getting out of the life and he was trying to be clean for a while, and they brought him back in, which I feel like is a big reoccurring theme in any type of gang-related media and probably actuality as well. The point that he volunteered instead of waiting to see if that Tig guy volunteered or making Jax choose. He did put up a good fight. It was 1 versus 5 or 6 of them.
At least 5.
Yeah.
I think it was like 6.
Yeah. If he would have backed himself
4.
into a corner so no one could get behind him, I think he would have lasted longer and maybe won. I'm going to give it a 7. Storyline impact. It does drive Jax a bit, and they keep bringing OP back up. So I'm going to give that a 10. Lesson time. His death teaches don't get involved with drug or gun runners to begin with.
Yeah.
Stay
like, if
out
you're
of
out,
prison.
you're out.
Yeah. Just take everybody and drive away. I'm going to go with a 7 for lesson time. It's 24. It's been so long since I watched it or listened to it.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll take that.
I will not be as kind, unfortunately. Partially because I've never seen the movie.
It's a TV show.
Yeah, whatever.
Don't worry, I can score lower.
Don't worry, I can go lower. Tearjerker, it seems like a sad episode for him. Like a sad moment. I'm going to say about a 7, probably. You can see kind of like the emotion behind that, but storyline impact, I guess maybe like a 6. Because like Silver said, I mean, they bring it back up a couple times, but it doesn't seem like it really has any. He still is in the gang, right? Like,
it's his best friend. What the fuck are you talking about? He dies. He literally dies. And then literally it changes the whole game. Jax gets back into it hard. He has to go after Pope. 3 other games come in. It's literally the turning point of Jax's character.
You made chaotic come out of silence for that one.
I hear this voice in my head. It's telling me to go lower.
God judging you.
It's telling me to go to a 4. And I can justify it this way. If it really impacted him that much, he would have left.
He couldn't.
He can't leave. He's the fucking president.
If he's the president, he can leave.
No, he can't. Oh my!
If you run things, you can leave.
No, that's not how it works. Because he runs things, but his mom and his stepdad are still technically the older whatevers. So no, he can't. It was a whole fucking mess.
Okay, so I'm gonna say a 5.
Damn it!
I went back up. Lesson time. The lesson it teaches me is the same one that it taught Silver, which is maybe not do that. Maybe don't run drugs and go to prison and shit like that. I'm going to say a 7 for that. So I think it's respectable. It's a 19. I can't wait to try to explain to the audience that there's just this random voice that pops up.
Oh. Well then, Mage, what is your TV show?
Ooh, that's a good one. I got a couple that I'm debating between. I don't know if you've seen one. I don't know if either of you've seen this. I'm assuming Bird has. So this is a show that I watched when I was a kid. I've actually watched it a couple times since then because it's one of my favorite like sitcom shows.
Friends.
Friends is a pretty good show. I'll give you that. It isn't Friends. I'll spoil that right now.
Friends is about as good as the number of letters in its names.
Oh my god.
It would have got a 7. Considering your ratings, it's pretty generous. No, my TV show that I'm picking, I hope you give this a name, a rating as high as the letter of its names. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, god damn it.
Specifically, I'm gonna set the scene a little bit for you. So this happens, I think it's around the end of the 4th season. This is Will Smith's show. Everyone knows the theme song and everything. It was a very major show, very popular. The scene that I'm picking specifically. Silver, have you seen this show? No.
I've seen parts. I've seen parts of it. We were more. That was in the 90s or early 2000s?
Both, I would say, starting mid 90s.
It went 7 seasons, so I think it was like beginning of like mid 90s the 2000s.
Then around that time, it'd be more cartoons, Friends because of parents, and then George Lopez.
But early enough for George Lopez.
Silver's late night was 100% Adult Swim. I only watched this show because my sister watched it. So I would watch a couple episodes.
George Lopez was always because TV was left on, and you hear "Low Rider."
He's a video. Hi. And you see them jumping on the trampoline.
Yeah.
This scene it's really heartbreaking. So the premise of the show is Will is a kid from Philly, East Philly to be specific, being raised by his single mother. Very classic movie trope, doing the best she can, trying to save him, trying to give him a better life. He gets into a fight, and they play it off like in the it's like, oh, he gets into a fight, so his mom, sends him to her brother's home. I think it's her brother, her sister and her husband are they live in Bel Air, which is the really rich area in California. He's a big shot lawyer over there. She works as like a civil rights activist at the beginning, and becomes a professor eventually. But they're doing very well for themselves. They have a ton of money, huge house. So he ends up they agree to take him in, and he lives out there to have a safer life and to be better. If anyone hasn't seen the show Bel Air, which is like a reimagining essentially of this, from I think it's on Peacock maybe.
It is.
It shows like a grittier version of that.
It's
and that's
way
what
more
I keep
serious.
going back to. It's actually really good. I really like the show. But that scene is like, when you think about like, oh, he got in like a fight in East Philly, it's like, no, he probably got into like a gang fight. Like it wasn't like they depicted as like he made some people mad and they bullied him. It was probably like, oh, someone's trying to kill him.
Yeah, I think it pretty much is, because he goes back to Philly once, and it's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing back here? Like, we blacklisted you out of a whole. He got blacklisted out of a whole state. That's pretty serious.
Yeah, pretty wild. So he has to live his life there. Throughout the show, you kind of learn like he doesn't really know his dad. Like he met him a couple times, but he was very much out of his life. Never supported him and his mom. Never was there for them. So this episode, particularly, I think, like I said, is around like the fourth season. His father comes back into the scene, meets him in Bel Air. He gets to spend some time with him, and then his dad starts delivering on all these promises of, we're gonna go in. He's a trucker. I want you to come on a big long trucking job with me. I want to spend time with you and get to know you. Well, then when Uncle Phil, who's the voice of reason and who's been like a father figure to Will when his father hasn't been, tells him, I don't think this is a good idea. Your dad's flaked on you a lot. This probably isn't going to happen. I want you to, temper your expectations and don't do this. Will essentially tells him, you're not my father. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do this. And that part initially really hurts, because seeing Uncle Phil break so hard is really tough. Then the next day, unfortunately, exactly what Uncle Phil predicted happens. Will's dad, hey, I got to cancel the trip last minute. I'm really sorry. I got something I got to take care of, and then takes off. Originally, he was going to take off and not even say goodbye to Will. So then Will has a scene where he is talking to Uncle Phil, and he goes through, I don't need him. I learned how to drive. I learned how to shave. I learned how to shoot my first basket without him. I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna, find me a beautiful wife. I'm gonna have a bunch of kids, and I'm gonna be a better father to them than he ever was to me. And then after that, he gets really emotional, and he looks like Phil, and he goes, "How come he don't want me?" And then he breaks down, and he just embraces Uncle Phil. Music cuts out, and then it's the end of the episode. The reason, to me at least, that hit so hard, that is a totally impromptu scene. Will Smith actually came out a couple years later and talked about none of that is in the script whatsoever. And the fact that he broke down like that, but also I can't remember his name, the actor that plays Uncle Phil, didn't break character and just kept going with it, is, I think, why it hits so hard for me.
It's a hard scene.
It's very tough, in my opinion.
I'll go first. That scene, like I said, it's very hard. It's, even like Will has a sense of false bravado. He is kind of just faking it until he makes it. And you see that a couple times when he realizes he's in over his head. Uncle Phil, unfortunately, does know better. He's not just some, like, lawyer, not cool dude. You know, he's understand that Uncle Phil's come from hard times. Isn't as square as he thinks he is. And they really are kind of doing their best. But here in this moment, it's that false bravado. He's like, I'm gonna do all this without him. I'm cocky. I don't need him. I've done everything without him. Like, I'm the man. And then it's that boy of, well, why doesn't he just love me?
Yeah.
And without trauma dumping on other people, you know, as a person who's had that moment of, why wasn't I enough for my parents? It's hard to have that. And especially as an adult, where you have to logically be like, well, why? There's no reason why. You know, and Uncle Phil literally just, you know, he knocks off the baseball cap off his head and he just hugs him. Probably giving him the only hug from a man that he's ever gotten. Let him show emotions as a man. You know, be vulnerable, be protected. It's a hard moment. I'm going to give it a 10. It's one of those scenes that I will still cry. If you catch me on a good day and I watch that, I'll cry. Yeah, and you didn't even post a fucking link, and I'm good.
Yeah, I didn't want to because I was like, I don't really want
to watch that.
Everybody.
Yeah. Going to have to get all my clips to make sure that they were good clips. I've, you know, I was crying already.
I'm really thankful I forgot, actually.
Yeah, he didn't. Storyline impact. I'm gonna give it a 9. No, I'm gonna give it a 10. All right, I'm gonna give it a 10 because I think, like I said, for one reason specifically, it's a 10. It was the first time as a man he was available to be emotionally and safely vulnerable, especially with another man. Like his mom, he does the thing where he's like, "Oh, I'm good," you know. But with her, she says something, he does it. Yes, ma'am. Doesn't always agree with her, but he got to be that safe kid with Uncle Phil, the one person he butts heads with the most. And like you said, it's, you know, it impacts him to be a good dad, to be like Uncle Phil, to not be like his dad, not to be like the other dads around him. I can. Lesson time. Lesson time is also a 10 because don't be a piece of shit, dad. If you're gonna have a child in this world, don't be a douchebag.
Amen.
Be there, and don't make promises you can't keep. All that stuff.
And I think it hit so hard for me too because like this scene that can go one of two ways. Typically, like you overcorrect or you undercorrect. So this is him like overcorrecting. It's like, oh, if I have kids, I'm going to be the best possible dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's great. Like that's what you want to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. And it sucks that he had to go through that to get here.
Yeah. And it's like, I think also for like, you know, lesson time, it's you don't need money to be a good dad.
Yeah. You just got to be there.
So, llama drama, just do black. I don't.
So I think, what's that, a 28?
That's 30.
No, it was 30. It was a.
That's the first 30.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's also going to be our first perfect score.
Dang.
And I'm also probably going to give it a 30.
It's a.
With Will's impromptu acting plus storyline impact, it's not the last episode in the season, is it?
No,
in the season, I think it is. It's not the last of the show.
In the series,
no.
Okay.
No, not at all. So it's like the 4th season. There's like 7.
I imagine this makes their relationship stronger throughout the next couple seasons.
Yeah, they don't really touch on it much after this. It's more.
It's one of those silent agreements.
It's very subtle. And this is also like, I think Will the next season goes to college. So you start seeing him more like act like an adult.
Yeah. He's not living with them full time.
No.
And then to build up on lesson time, it also shows that your biological parents don't have to be your actual parents.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could be a parent, from your uncle to your aunt to whoever you see, which I think is going to be our first perfect score in the history of the show so far for a 30.
I didn't even think of that one. I was thinking of like stuff, and there's one of those ones I think I block out, just like fucking bossing say.
When you guys said emotional damage, this was actually the first thing that came to my mind. So when we were like, oh, let's do one of each, I was like, yes. Rob.
I had a different
one.
one.
From the Harambe documentary.
Yeah. I had a different one, but I knew neither one of you probably would have seen it, and it may not have been anywhere as close to hard as Sons of Anarchy. I'm surprised Silver has seen it, not you. So that was a...
Well, I roommated with 6 other guys, and it was during that same time period that was airing. Mm-hmm. So it was either that on or that 70s show. Those were the 2 shows that were always on the TV.
I fucking love that 70s show. Oh, it's so good.
There's some pretty sad moments in that show too.
Yeah, no, that's one of those shows that like any like funny moment, they immediately undercut it with a joke, or any sad moment. I mean, they just immediately cut it out. Well, Silver, you're next.
Yeah.
Really sorry you get to follow that.
Yeah. Mine is definitely not as sad. It is also fairly new within this year.
Oh.
I know Mage has seen it. It is animated. And it started on YouTube.
Oh, I think I might know.
My show is Hazbin Hotel.
What are you picking from Hazbin Hotel?
I think I know.
Sir Pinchus. Poor Sir Pinchus.
Oh my
This is the only one that is from my original list.
It's good though.
It's not what I thought you would have picked.
Yeah, no. I like it though.
I'm not sure. Bird, have you seen Hazbin Hotel?
I watched a couple of episodes, and then I was waiting to watch it with Chaotic, because I forgot that we were supposed to watch it together.
Well, this is towards the end, so this is a spoiler warning for Hazbin Hotel. Sorry, Bird.
It's all right.
And pretty much Sir Pinchus is working it, trying to be redeemed. Oh no, Sir Pinchus joins the team, the hotel, and it's Angel Dust who's trying to be redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Pinchus also has a crush on Cherry Bomb. He's been slowly trying to work up the nerve to ask her out or sleep with them. And at the very end, during the big war between Heaven and the Executioners, the Exorcists, and the Hazbin Hotel group, Sir Pinchus gets in his air blimp with all his little Eggy boys and goes to fight Adam, and they're powering up the lasers. And as soon as the lasers power up, Adam just points to him and zaps him with a big old angel ray and wipes him from existence, which is the first major death from the show. It breaks everybody. Charlie unleashes her full demon form after that.
I'll start with this one. Pandering so much. I will encourage both of you to watch this show. It's actually way better than it has any business being. So good. Tearjerker 5. It's not really like, it's not a crying scene. I'll say 6 actually. It's not sad. It's what happens after that's more sad, or more like, I wasn't sad. I was happier, because he then at that point he gets into heaven. Like he goes to the afterlife, and he is redeemed. Like he gets clarification that he's redeemed. He's no longer this like, he's no longer who he was before, which is what he was trying to change. He wanted to be someone who was worthy of love and of affection and of a good person. So he was able to do that, which is what everyone in the show wants. That's the whole point of the hotel. So, like I said, a 6 for that. Storyline impact, I think it's storyline. I think is actually like an 8, because like I said, it shows that the hotel works. It shows that you are able to be redeemed as a person, like, or as a soul, I guess. Yeah, it is literally the point of the story. And it shows it's literally the product of change. Jesus. So I'm going to do an 8 for story. At Lesson Time, I think same thing. I'm going to go like a 9. It teaches you that people can change. And sometimes you just got to go for it, even if the odds are kind of insurmountable and it might not happen. You got to do it.
He went with it with Cherry Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
He went with it to save his friends and his egg boys.
And his eggy boys. What did I give you? 23, I think.
All right. Tearjerker,
He was a lot of people's favorite characters.
I feel like I'm gonna get hurt here. It's like a 3. It's just gone. It was just like it was like so much build up and it was poof. Like
Sometimes
I don't
that's
think
more sad.
Yeah, I was like, oh, bro, it's just gone. Yeah. Storyline impact. I would say an 8 too, since like you said, it's the point of the whole shit show. That and if I'm not like from TikTok, he's kind of like the comedic punchline, isn't he?
Yeah, for the first bit.
Yeah, so like for him to be the one that's redeemed, sounds even way more impactful. That the person you kind of use as a punching bag, is redeemed first. So I'll go with an 8 for storyline impact. Same thing with lesson time. I think the lesson is even the smallest can have an impact, even if it feels like it's smaller. Because obviously, like I said, it gets Charlie to be what she wants to be. Also, I don't know. Yeah, so I'll go with that.
So an 8, and you said a 10 for Tearjerker?
3.
Oh, 3.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
19.
She gave Serpentius' death better score than Bakugo's.
No.
Yeah.
Did I? No, I said a 3.
Yeah, but Bakugo's total score from you was 16. Serpentius is 19.
You know what? It's because they took away the emotional impact of his shit by making him alive the next episode.
They 1,000% did. And nothing.
So did Serpentius. Serpentius was alive the next episode.
Well, then you didn't tell me that. That's gonna lower it back down to like a 7.
Scores are final.
James said it when they were talking
final.
about it. He was like, he gets redeemed and goes, I swear to God.
Dang.
So 388, 19.
Ain't that a bitch?
With that, I'll tally up the scores while Mage and Bird do their honorable mentions.
Ooh, yeah. Bird, do you want to go first? What honorable mentions did you have?
One of my honorable mentions was the first Pokemon movie.
Oh my gosh.
When Pikachu is trying to revive Ash and all the Pokemon are crying.
Have you seen the oh my gosh, I don't know if it's a redo of that. The like I Choose You movie.
Mm-mm.
Oh my god, I'm gonna find it and send it to you. It's the same thing. It's a different like version of that. It's so sad.
My second TV show would have been I don't know if anyone has seen One Tree Hill.
Oh yeah, my sister's 4 years older than me. Of course, I've seen One Tree Hill.
Keith and Dan. Yep. But like I said, I feel like unless you, that's that's such a deep dive to get their moment.
Yeah, the entire school shooting like scene or episode is hard.
Yeah, and I also didn't want to.
The one after that, where the one that always gets me is when Luke comes in and kicks they have like the shrine for Jimmy, and he comes in and just kicks the shrine over because he thinks Jimmy killed his uncle.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Oh my god, this one's sad, but I think I was live in like 1990 whatever for the first Pokemon movie, and they had that sad music of Only Tears Could Bring You Back, and all the Pokemon were crying.
Yeah.
And the Mewtwo's are like, hey, you don't have to be different. You can be different and still understand each other. I think that one's always gonna emotionally damage me. But those are my my honorable mentions.
Yeah, fair. I had quite a few other ones as well. So for my anime ones, I also had a My Hero Academia one in there. It was the death of Sir Night-Eye after the Hideout Raid arc when he's killed by Overhaul. Yeah. That scene's tough because he where he looks and puts his hand on Deku's face and also Lemillion's face and says, "You change the future." That was great. I have Naruto Shippuden, the death of Jiraiya. When Jiraiya puts the note on the Toad's back and then sends the Toad off and then dies, and he's going through the water and you hear him monologuing. So sad. Leaves on the Vine, obviously. I also had the other one that I said, Monkey Atso. from Avatar as well. Those are all my anime ones. Movies I had. Has anyone seen Coach Carter?
No.
It's a basketball movie. It's my favorite sports movie. There's a scene. It's about poetry. Like there's a couple scenes about poetry in the background. There's a scene at the end where um, it makes Denzel and Samuel L. Jackson. It makes him cry, and that always gets me. Something about like strong black men crying just every time.
Yeah.
So that one, The Lion King, Mufasa's death.
That's one of my. That was one of mine.
Yeah, when Simba's like trying to push him up and go, get up, Dad.
Yeah.
That's tough. And like I said, Up, Ellie and Carl, the opening scene. I think that gets me more now that I'm like older and married. But TV, I had Fresh Prince, obviously. How I Met Your Mother. If anyone's seen that, the scene where Marshall's dad dies and Lily tells him
that's a hard one.
his dad dies. It's the way like his voice is breaking, and then he goes, "I'm not ready for this," and then it like fades to black. Very hard. If anyone's seen Grey's Anatomy,
Fuck that show.
I was watching it. I started watching it again. That's why I have this one. Is the scene where George is hit by the bus, and then he's in the hospital and they don't know who he is, and then all of a sudden they figure it out. So that's a pretty sad scene. And then I know none of you have seen this. MASH, the old TV show.
MASH.
My mom. Have you seen MASH, Silver?
I have seen a lot of MASH.
Dang. Okay.
Papa
I think
always
both
has
of our
it on
moms.
and plus mom.
Yep. Yeah. Both our grandpas liked it, and then my mom was obsessed with MASH growing up. So I've seen the whole show back to front. There's a scene there's actually two. The one where Henry Blake's plane crashes.
Oh yeah.
He's all celebrated. He gets to go home. He's being discharged. It's great. And then Radar comes in while they're in surgery, and he says that his plane was shot down and it spun in, and there were no survivors. And then it just is very silent. That scene is hard.
Saving lives.
Yeah, and then they have to keep fixing people. And then the scene towards the end of the series when Hawkeye has his traumatic break.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
And he talks about the way. That's one of my favorite shows, like episodes of any show period, because of the way it's like done cinematically. Because it starts with like, oh, there's a woman on a bus and she has to kill a chicken to save everyone's lives. And at first it's like, oh, she has to silence the chicken, and then oh, she killed the chicken. Then at the end it's, oh, that was a baby. So it's like she killed her own baby in front of everybody.
Yeah, and didn't Hawkeye even say shut the baby up because he was panicked and he
blames himself and he was partially blamed for making her kill her baby.
Yeah. Another hard one is when he remembers that his cousin tried drowning him.
I don't remember that. It's
an episode, so like to go off topic, there's mildew in the camp. These soldiers came with mildew. He starts sneezing like heaps, like, it's like mental sneezing. Mm-hmm. Can't figure out what he's sneezing. Sydney comes in. I think that's the first episode of Sydney. Oh. And he's like, oh, what were you doing? Like, what was it? And he goes, oh, it smelled like mildew. It smelled like time I fell in the lake. And he goes, oh, nothing happened. My cousin pulled me out. And he keeps pushing him, and his cousin threw him in the lake and watched him almost drown. Yeah, so Hawkeye had some trauma. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, Hawkeye was a pretty fucked up character.
Yeah, if you really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just about it.
My honorable mentions, I had Leslie from The Bridge of Terabithia. Leslie's death. Yeah, that's still last on my list. I didn't have a very good list. One that maybe recently you guys probably haven't watched is V's Sacrifice in Murder Drones.
No.
What is that?
It's a YouTube series from Glitch. Murder Drones is they're 20-minute episodes, and indie studio animated. Very good. I'd say just as good as Hazbin and Hello Boss. Yeah. One of the murder drones, V, is facing robotic raptors, and she pushes the rest of the main characters into an elevator to save them, and then cuts the wires as it falls. It's made by the same people that do the Amazing Digital Circus, which is also a really good show. But with that, I can tell us all I can tell us all our final scores.
Okay.
Third place is me with 120. Second place is our guest, Bird, with 132. 12 points ahead of me.
Which we're technically counting for Mondi.
Yep. And Mage with a total of 156.
Jesus.
You got some good ones. I
kind of figured this was going to happen since I can't discern the emotional parts of a movie. I was like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be sad.
This is fine. You had some good ones though. Well, since we have our winners, I am now up to, I think that puts me to 4 victories. Is that right, Silver?
I'd have to go through and recount.
Okay.
I never,
because I think you had 3, I had 3, and Mondi had 2 with Chaotix win. So that puts me at 4, you at 3, and him at 2.
Should be one more. 9, Oh no, yeah, 9. Yeah,
this is 9.
plus 1.
So now I'm going to spin the wheel for the next episode. We are doing origin stories.
Ooh.
Origin stories.
Like Peter Parker with Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Or being bit by the spider. Which type?
I think all of that technically is an origin story, right?
But yeah, like the stuff that makes the hero a hero. Or the villain the villain.
Doesn't specify.
Syndromes.
Mm-hmm. So Silver, technically, since he lost, gets to make the card, so he gets to pick the parameters for this. Okay. And I know he will do a great job of making it as neutral as possible and not biased, so he wins it all.
Origin story of a young mage who was a golfer who continuously hit golf balls across the road until he hit a sheriff's window.
I did do that.
Passing sheriff car.
That's a skill.
Yeah, what a time. Yeah, so we're going to do origin stories next time.
Hello, Chaotic here. Thank you for listening to Archetype Apocalypse. Mage, Mondi, and Silver will be back to debate soon, but if you just can't wait to get your hands on more, check out the other projects within Mythic Gates on Discord or at monstersmythe.wixsite.com. A quick tip since Silver can't hear me either. If you sub to Patreon, you get episodes a week early. Don't tell them I told you. See you next time, AA Fiends.